All right. Well, thank you for joining me today. I enjoyed the informal observations that I did this week, and I know that you gave a benchmark test yesterday, so I wanted us to take some time, go over that, and see what exactly how we need to move forward. You and I both reviewed the data individually before coming into this meeting. So thinking about that, I know some things that stood out to me, but I want to hear from you specifically. What are some things that stood out to you in regards to that data on those questions?
Okay, so our benchmark 2 was over poetry, figurative language type stuff, and what really surprised me whenever I was reviewing the data independently was looking at some of the revising and editing questions. Mm-hmm. There were 2 that jumped out that I saw that my kids only got about 31% correct on, and it was over the same TEK.
Okay.
It was over 8.10 DVI, and it was punctuation, including commas and non-restrictive phrases, semicolons, things like that. Mm-hmm. However, whenever I went back and looked at the questions themselves, the first one was one of the ones where it repeats itself again and again and again, and the students just have to identify which is the correct punctuation to use in it. My kids, for some reason with that, have a little bit of trouble with stamina reading that same thing over and over, and so they tend to just select one. Mm-hmm. So we definitely are just going to have to continue to focus on that. But the other one that has me concerned is they're not being able to correctly identify the use of a semicolon.
Okay.
And I had some concerns about that because while we do plan together over grade levels, that semicolon isn't really something that's brought up a lot until they get to 8th grade. So it's definitely something that is standing out to me that I feel like we possibly need to do a reteach lesson on.
Okay. That one stood out to me as well, the one about, because the sentence was really long on that one that they kept repeating. And so I can easily see where 8th graders would read a little, just read the beginning of it and not just guess which one they thought. And I saw that as well on that data that they were split between 2 answers. I saw where 33% got one answer and 36% got the correct answer actually. So pretty divided there. But again, they probably just read it and guessed. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yes, ma'am.
And then on the other one you were talking about where they used a semicolon, only 26% got the correct answer. So I definitely agree with you that semicolons should be our focus for the reteach. So let's start with how we're going to end the class. You are very good at using exit tickets, and you've done a great job of incorporating them into Teams, our program that we use here at school, and creating a reflection for the kids so they feel comfortable doing that. Yes. So let's kind of talk through what are we going to include on that reflection, on that exit ticket, that will help us see if they really have understood and mastered the concept of a comma or a semicolon.
Well, I basically want to do something that is going to build their confidence as well as show me like they do actually know what they're talking about. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to start off first with possibly pulling from a passage or a short story, something that is a little bit longer, the same way that question was, but having them identify why did the author use a semicolon here? Why is that appropriate? And maybe make that first one on the exit ticket a multiple choice question so that they kind of know specifically what they're looking for.
Okay.
And then possibly having them do a written response themselves to use a colon correctly on that exit ticket. And then possibly having, maybe one question on there too about commas if we bring that into the lesson.
Okay.
Because that does involve that TEK also, but the focus still being on the semicolon. But having it be, we've done this together in class. Now can you do it as a reader, and then can you do it as a writer authentically?
Yeah, I like that. That'll be good. And that'll be easy to be able to quickly glance at and see they either get it or they don't. So I think that's a really good way to start. So let's go back to the beginning of class. When they come in, what do you think, how will you introduce or start the day with that?
Okay, so the way that the question was worded on the benchmark that they missed was what change needs to be made or added in sentence 23. And so I thought that for their bell ringer that day, I would have it set up the same way when they came in, have a sentence and say what punctuation is needed, and have them identify either colon, semicolon, comma, no change needed, the same type of way they saw it on the benchmark test.
Right.
So that's already kind of connected there.
Okay.
Then once we've kind of had that and had that discussion of, okay, well, we choose a semicolon because I want to bring in technology and kind of give them another way of looking at it other than just me standing there telling them. And I found a really great video on YouTube from Tech Insiders that is specifically talking about how to use a semicolon correctly. That way we're activating that visual, the auditory, and before we move into the kinesthetically practicing it.
Yep. I think that's a great idea.
But just for that, for the reteach of roles, and then afterwards, just to kind of deepen their understanding and to give them a chance to explain it to somebody else, have them turn to a shoulder partner and pair and share with that their takeaway from the video.
Okay.
After that, to just kind of further kind of get that in their heads, I want to model some sentences on the board of here's how we correctly use a semicolon so that they have that kind of ingrained before they move forward to try practicing it on their own again.
Yeah, it'll be good for you when you have those sentences up there to talk through out loud what you're thinking. You'll feel silly doing it, but that'll be good for them to hear your thoughts so that then when they go to do it on their sentences, they can remember hearing you process that and model it.
Great. I thought after that, before we moved to our exit tickets for the end of the class period, that we would have them draw slips of paper like out of a hat as either with a partner or it could be independently. I just like doing the collaborative stuff. And have them have some kind of sentence that needs a semicolon and correctly identify where it needs to go on that slip of paper. And do that as an activity together.
Okay, yeah, that'd be great. And they could even, if time allows before the exit ticket, or if you need a few extra minutes, they could share with the class and to explain why. And that would just be another way to see if they're understanding.
That metacognition of thinking of why I'm thinking that way.
Exactly. That'll be good. And then you would give them their exit ticket or have them get on the computers and complete their exit ticket. Then, so this is going to happen tomorrow. And so then at the end of the day, you'll be able, does the reflection on Teams, does it analyze, does it organize the data for you, or is it something you need to go through? And
it actually does a great job. So whenever it is a multiple choice question, it identifies how many students gave you which answer and if it was correct or not. But for short answers, Teams, the reflection form also tells you if there are certain words that are appearing over and over again. For example, if we were talking about a narrative and you ask them to give you a definition, if they tell you story, Teams will actually tell you it popped up this many times when being described.
Okay, wonderful.
So it helps you evaluate both short answers and multiple choice. So I feel like it would kind of give me a general direction of, can a student correctly write a written response using a semicolon? I can go back and look at it either in grouped data or as an individual data, what each student submitted and how long it took them to write it. So maybe little Susie was able to correctly write a sentence, but it took her 6 or 7 minutes to think through where do I specifically need to place this punctuation, whereas Johnny may have been able to get it much quicker, and it helps me identify which students need the reteach again or need further instruction versus the ones that are confident and ready to move on.
Right, and it also shows you the ones that just rush through it. And
yes, ma'am.
Might help you understand exactly why you got it or why they got it wrong. So I think that's a great tool, and well, good. Well, I will check back with you tomorrow afternoon or maybe even the next day and just kind of follow up and see how this went. But I'm fairly confident this is going to go very well. So
thank you
good
so
job.
much.
Thank you.